One Mediator Media here. We got so many things to cover, lots of stories. We have Joe, who's not a socialist. We got Breonna Taylor. Justice is being picked. We got so much to talk about today. Now, don't forget, hit the bell, like, subscribe, comment, do what you got to do. That's what keeps this thing going. And so let's mediate.
First of all, I guarantee, I promise, I've never broken my word. I beat the socialists. That's how I got elected. That's how I got the nomination.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Do I look like a socialist? Look at my career, my whole career.
Okay, this article by Business Insider. I beat the socialist. Biden reminds his voters worried about socialism that he won the party nomination, not Bernie Sanders. And so Biden is separating himself from that position, even though he kind of flip-flops, right? He does have that unity pact with Bernie. And he's definitely trying to figure out who he is. I guess at age 77, 78, he's still not quite sure. So it says, I beat the socialist, Biden said in a local news interview in Wisconsin. That's how I got elected. That's how I got nomination. Do I look like a socialist? Look at my career, my whole career. I'm not a socialist. Okay, so he wants us to look at his whole career, 47 years, right, in office. His whole career, he's done little. And what he has done seems to have hurt a lot of people out there in terms of that crime bill that happened. And he just hasn't done too much in terms of really what he states, you know? And so that's the issue I think that a lot of people have. What do we do about this? Well, the problem with Joe is that he wants to reach both sides, right? So he's anti-riot, but initially he was kind of for the protests, which, again, if they were peaceful, that's fine. But we saw a good portion of them weren't, even though they said 93% of them were. But when you look at the numbers, they don't add up, and we're being manipulated. Joe, just figure out who you are, stick with it, and we'll respect it. But when you go, like in that clip that we saw, where you flip-flop back and forth, and you also make statements that are incorrect and false, that makes you look bad and non-believable in terms of what you say. We cannot believe it. So I wish I could, but right now I can't. Joe, pick a side. So in this story, it talks about migrant women, and they say that they didn't okay surgery to be forced in to have hysterectomies. And so there's a lot of talk about this. I thought, well, let's look into it a little bit. And so I'm looking at this. It says Dr. Mahendra Amin, a gynecologist, linked this week to allegations of unwanted hysterectomies and other procedures. An Associated Press review of medical records for 4 women and interviews with lawyers reveal growing allegations that Amin performed surgeries and other procedures on detained immigrants that they never sought or didn't fully understand. Now, this I've not only seen, I've heard of people where they're given medical treatment without their consent, especially when they don't speak the language. So I don't actually put this too far out there. And we've seen in the country's history where they've actually done this intentionally. And so is it happening now? I was reading through this article and a couple other things. There are some questions whether it truly happened or it's just allegation. Of course, some of this you can't prove unless you actually go in there and look for yourself in terms of what procedure was actually completed. It needs to be investigated. It needs to be looked at. These crimes do actually happen, and these people sometimes are actually affected by these things. Just never know. Government, professionals, you name it. There are crooked people everywhere. So let's keep an eye on this. So this next story is kind of interesting. So Trump falls into the trap he set for Biden by Politico. And so this particular story talks about Trump and his statements that he's had about Biden lately. And those statements about, him not being all there, him not having his full set. And it says that they worry Trump has set a trap for himself by incessantly attacking Biden's age and mental acumen. 8 years as vice president, 3 decades in the Senate, 2 debates as vice president, and he just came through about a dozen debates in the Democratic primary where he vanquished 2 dozen opponents. So they're claiming that Biden, because he's been through debates, he's done this, he's done that he's going to be able to continue to do that. I actually wasn't very impressed by his performance during the primaries, and so I'm not too convinced here. I do want to see. I'm really, really excited and looking forward to that debate that's going to happen real soon in the next coming days because I don't believe it. And so I think Politico just coming to Biden's defense and with very little to back themselves up. Like here it says, Biden has clearly shown he can function. The bar is low and the expectations are so low. All he has to do is exceed those expectations. That doesn't say much. If you are put in a position where you are essentially said, he might be able to do this much. Let's just say it's take a step. Well, if you take 2 steps, then you've exceeded that, and therefore, yeah, we're going to clap. No, that's not how this works. You are running for office of a whole country. You have to be able to do more than just get past those low expectations. I'm curious. Let's watch. I'm going to grab some popcorn that day and literally, it's going to be an entertainment thing. Trump is an entertainer. That's what he is. Biden, not so much, but Biden tries. Sometimes he wants to be a boxer and he calls people out to go outside and throw some blows. I don't know. Let's watch this, see what happens. And so our next story here, Trump claims ballots were found in the trash, but won't say where. Okay. Is it true or not? I don't know. I read a couple things. One thing said there were 6 ballots that were found, and the other says there were 9. I'm not so sure. If he doesn't come with some evidence or proof, then maybe it didn't happen, or maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. Do I think there's voter mail-in fraud? Oh, yeah. Do I think that we're going to see that in this election? Yeah. Have we seen evidence of that? Yeah. Could it have been planted? Yeah. A lot of stuff's going on both sides. And to be honest, I'm really, I could say I'm not really trusting what the system is offering us. So I personally am planning on going in to vote. I can go into Walmart. I can go sit in a restaurant or outside of a restaurant right now. I can go to all these places. I can go vote standing several feet away from somebody, fill out a paper real fast, and walk out. I can do that. If I can do it, all these other things. So I will be doing that because I want my vote to count. So does that mean that you shouldn't mail in? No. If you feel comfortable doing that, by all means, please do. Even Biden didn't. All these Democrats are going in voting in person. If they're doing that, I think I'm going to do the same. Speaking of voting, okay. So there's something in the water, according to Politico again. Florida Republicans see surge in voter registration. Apparently, Democrats say they feel pressure from Joe Biden's campaign to refrain from door-to-door canvass. Essentially, they're not doing the work out there, and people are beginning to look like they're maybe flipping over to the Republican side here. Again, Florida's a swing state, and a lot is going on out there, and Joe's not doing the footwork. So, Trump doesn't stop running around putting on shows for people, and so ultimately, it's paying off in his case, not so much in Joe's. So I'm not too surprised, to be honest. And a lot of stuff is going on right now. Some people are blaming Trump for a whole bunch of stuff. And ultimately, I don't know. I think given the situation, given everything that's going on, I don't know that it's all his fault. Yeah, maybe he's made some bad moves. Maybe he could have said some things a little better. We'll see. I think, like I said earlier, as far as the upcoming debates, I think a lot of this is going to come out. And so we'll see how they defend their position. It'll be very interesting to see that. California moves to end sales of new gas-powered cars. So California is fully moving by 2035, 15 years. They're looking at moving completely 100% to electric vehicles. Some people say, yay, this sounds like the Green New Deal, right? I have a few questions though. First and foremost. So California, who has a reputation, and really the whole country, but California especially, during certain situations, we have rolling blackouts. We have situations where we don't have enough electricity based on the system that we have now. Are we going to upgrade that system? Number 2, if we do this, and let's say California is the only state that really jumps on this and begins to move forward in this direction, if other states don't do it, we're going to lose out on a lot of business. As it is, some businesses are already moving away from California because of the high taxation and things. We have Tesla, who just made an announcement that they may be moving. They went a little back and forth, so I'm not sure, that they may be moving to Texas. And if that happens, that's one electric company that's already gone that makes a huge portion of the cars that are out there as far as electric vehicles. So it says the plan won't stop people from owning gas-powered cars or selling them on the used car market, but in 2035, it would end the sale of all new such vehicles. He urged Californians to pull away from the gas pumps and encourage other states to join California. If other states do this, so be it. I think that'll be very helpful, and I think eventually we're going to go that direction anyway. It's just kind of a sudden move. It says the oil industry panned it, of course. The automaker industry group saw a middle ground, saying it committed to increasing zero-emission vehicles, but through cooperation among governments and businesses, not by mandates. So I think everybody's in agreement that this is the way it's gonna go real soon. But by mandating it and having it like an end date now, without a full agreement or full compact as to how that's going to happen, I think we may be shooting ourselves in the foot. But we'll see. I could be wrong. It's just my guess. But there are a lot of factors we need to look at, and we haven't really looked at any of them. Other than I think he's the new Green Deal here.
And I'll make you this one promise. Listening to the speaker on television this week, if she tries to move for an impeachment based upon the president following the Constitution, I think there'll be a move on the floor to have her no longer, or the question of her being Speaker.
This is from the Hill. McCarthy threatens motion to oust Pelosi if she moves forward with impeachment. How do you even approach this? Nancy, so you've tried to impeach before. It didn't work. We are looking at impeachment before the election? Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. How are we going to, again, lots of funds are spent in this process, and obviously she does not care. She doesn't pay for it. We do. And so that would be a ridiculous motion. And I'm glad that at least somebody's standing up and saying, if you do this, there will be retaliation on their part, on the part of this House Minority Leader. Ultimately, what we're seeing here is she is crazy. Now, she didn't quite say it, but she was asked about a possible impeachment, and she didn't also negate it. We'll see where that goes. I'm really curious to see where this goes because, again, this was attempted. It did not work. And if we do it again, we're going to spend a ton of money at the turn of an election. This is just insane. If he were to get elected again, they probably would continue with it. But even then, would it be fruitful given that this is something written in the Constitution? You can't change that, and you shouldn't. There are some things that are read a little bit loosely, I guess you can say, in the Constitution, but this is not one of them. And if he's doing what he's supposed to, this is abuse of power. This is ridiculous, on her part, I think. And we went over the rest of it last time, so I'm not going to cover it again. Check out our last video. Now, here's just a quick thing on Black Lives Matter organization deletes page. It's from Fox, calling for disruption of the nuclear family. And so some people have commented on this already. The Black Lives Matter organization website appears to have removed a page. So the page included how they wanted to essentially eliminate the nuclear family, or the prescribed, it says Western prescribed nuclear family. So the statement says, we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure requirement by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers, parents, and children are comfortable. Again, our country's pretty much founded on this. And I think the majority of people agree that a good family structure, a foundation, is a good thing. I think for the most part, if you look at statistics, you look at anything, a household that has a complete family, kids, parents, no divorce, they tend to do okay. They tend to do well. They want to disrupt that and create communes that essentially will raise children, as opposed to having essentially what they're looking for is a fatherless society. I mean, that's what this is going towards. If you look at a lot of their other statements, they do kind of go in that direction where it's anti-male. It's kind of interesting. And if you look at the deleted page, there's a few things on there where it talks about build a space that affirms Black women and is free of sexism, misogyny, and environments in which men are centered. Men are attacked here directly. I hate to say it, but I'm a fan of everybody. Obviously, we're all a mixture of everything, so we got to love each other, and that's the important thing. But this stuff where there's a whole different agenda here is not quite what I'm looking for. So my goal is just love everybody, treat everybody right, love our neighbor, take care of them, love everybody regardless of color. We're all red on the inside. We bleed the same. It's all the same. So I don't quite prescribe to this. I'm sorry, but I don't. Moving on. Okay, so a quick thing here on Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson says he'll vote for the first time this year, from the Hill. So Mike Tyson's pretty excited. Mike Tyson on Tuesday said that he will be voting this year for the first time after his home state, Nevada, restored voting rights to certain convicted felons last year. This is a movement that's going all over the place. Not quite sure I agree with it, but at the same time, I mean, I don't think you should be, for every single thing that you do, that it should keep you forever from doing something such as voting. Just depends on what you do, right? If you go murder 50 people, I don't really want you to vote. That's just not okay. And so, but if you happen to, but something minimal, it's a felony, say drunk driving, for example, though that is serious, don't do it. Something like that has nothing to do with violence, perhaps, and you've changed your ways, perhaps you should be allowed to. But let's cover some of that. So in the related story, Florida Attorney General calls for investigation into Bloomberg-backed felon voting right effort. This is from, is it NBC News? So ultimately, this talks about Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody on Wednesday called for an investigation into an effort backed by Mike Bloomberg to help restore the voting rights of thousands of felons ahead of November election. Okay. Again, I am not totally against that. Helping some people who've been in that situation to regain their voting status, depending on what you've done, depending on the situation. But for you to pay money, millions and millions of dollars, and to pay off these fines of people that's bribery, because you're essentially saying, I pay this for you, I fix your situation, and now go vote as I want you to. That's bribery. That's not really taking somebody's free vote, free speech being utilized appropriately. Why didn't he do this before the election? Why didn't he do this at a time that it wouldn't affect that? I don't like where this went, don't like where it's going. And so, no, sorry. It says it's a felony for someone to either directly or indirectly offer something of a value to impact whether or not someone votes. So even Mike Bloomberg will have to bail himself out because he's actually participating in felony behavior, illegal behavior that requires a felony. And so if we look here, okay, same thing. It says Representative Matt Gaetz, Bloomberg, may face criminal probe for paying felons fines. And so he's already being looked at. So there's a criminal probe being conducted to look at Mike Bloomberg to see what's going on with him. Let's keep an eye on that, because there are many things going on right now that we need to watch closely that are being kind of just pushed to the back burner. So let's keep an eye on this one. If we look at felonies, okay, this is from Atkins, Markoff, Adler, the AMA law team. And so they have a list here of different felonies. I thought it'd just be interesting to cover some of those. So drug abuse violations, okay, that would be a felony. Property crimes, driving under the influence, like I had mentioned, property crimes such as theft, assault, disorderly conduct, violation of liquor laws. So you can see that there's a variation. These are just the top most common, 20 top most common felonies. Not all of these would require that somebody lose their voting right, my opinion. If you have a DUI, I think we tend to learn from that. We hopefully stop doing that. Not everybody does, but if they do, I don't think that should remove your ability to vote. Violent crime, absolutely, of course. You should not be allowed to, I don't think, in my opinion. Disorderly conduct, I mean, people do stupid things sometimes, and but there are things that you can't take back, such as violent attacks, killing, etc. Things like that. There's robbery. I don't know if I would be too in favor of that, but I do think there are some things that does not require you to lose your voting right for a long period of time or forever. Okay, so let's talk about Breonna Taylor. Okay, it's a big story, and a lot of stuff's going on with it. So we're seeing right now some live video of what's going on out there in terms of protests. Some violent protests yesterday, and it looks like they're preparing for it right now. Nothing going on at this point, but let's keep an eye on these things. As you probably know, so there were, this is from Fox News, the suspect who shot 2 cops. It says Louisville cop shooting facing assault charges as officers ID'd, and there were 127 arrested. That was yesterday. Lorenzo Johnson, 26, was charged with 2 counts of assault in the first degree and 14 counts of wanton endangerment in connection with the shooting of police officers. Okay, so wanton endangerment. What exactly are we talking about there? It says a person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, he wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. And that's the statute. So I just read pretty much what it stands for. The issue, and this is why we're talking about this. So the story goes, as most of you probably already know it, but there's new details coming out. Apparently there was a no-knock warrant. Apparently they knocked. That's what witnesses are saying. That's what's being recorded. Apparently they knocked very loud that witnesses noticed it. And so they didn't have to, but they did. They go in because Walker, who was her boyfriend, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, was into some stuff. He was a drug dealer, I think, and different things were going on. And so they came in for him, and he shot at the officers. He shot one in the leg. They returned fire, and eventually she was killed. Breonna Taylor was killed. And here we are with Breonna Taylor. There's been a whole thing about her in the media in terms of being awarded, I think it was $12 million by the city and so on and so forth. And the protest is all about the situation. Ultimately, it sounds like Breonna was kind of an accomplice from some of the details that are coming out. She had a previous boyfriend, I think. She was involved with him. He was up to no good. This one as well. There was some kind of situation back and forth. I haven't verified all that. I've seen some reports on it. But again, it's not really being put out there by the mainstream media. They don't really want to talk about that. Does she deserve to die? No. Did they intend to kill her? No. She got caught in that crossfire. Her boyfriend shot first. They shot back. This one officer who's being charged, well, he's being charged because he shot recklessly. He shot all over the place. And so he endangered other lives. He obviously killed somebody if he was the one who shot her. And so he's being charged for it. So be it. That's the case. If I don't know as a cop what I would do, right? If I barge in and somebody starts shooting at me, you may just start shooting indiscriminately in terms of just trying to hit a target. I don't know. But at the same time, I mean, I've never been in that situation. Don't know. But if I were to be, would I respond that way? I don't know. But here you go. This is the situation. And now we have protests. You have to be the judge on that one. So adding to the story, really interesting stuff coming out. If you look for it, it's out there. So it says Daily Mail reported here, Shields, we got Shields. Video emerges of riot supplies being unloaded from a U-Haul truck in Louisville hours before 2 cops are shot during violent protests. So this is even before the shooting. And so when we follow the story, it says footage showing a U-Haul truck full of riot supplies being unloaded ahead of protests. So here's a video. Somebody, and we'll go into who the somebody allegedly is, drove a U-Haul here and began to unload a bunch of, well, posters and signs and apparently weapons, shields. I don't know exactly what kind of weapons. There are some shields in there that you can see and different things. Somebody's supporting this, and this wasn't the only U-Haul truck. Apparently there were several. So this is what's going on during this time. Now, let's talk about what the heck this means, because as soon as I see this, my question is, okay, who's paying for this? I mean, I've rented U-Hauls. I've moved. They're not cheap. At least it wasn't for me. And it's insanity. So here's another video, okay, as they're pulling up. So I'm not going to play the whole thing. I don't want to be have my video get dinged here on YouTube. But you can see those same signs are over here. And then they carry on here. Here's another angle. Okay, this lady here, the one that's unloading, there's somebody else in there, but she's the one that drove it. Okay, so my question is who, where, why, when, how, right? And so who is Holly Zoller, if that's how you say it? And who funded the U-Haul full of riot gear in Louisville? Internet says arrest them. Okay. I agree. Why are these people being allowed to do this? So Zoller, and apparently she was confronted by the anonymous caller about posts on social media and so on and so forth. So they identified this lady, Zoller. And the question is, who is she? So according to what they found, now that they know exactly who this person might be, she's aligned with Bail Project. It's an official website. And so this website here, Bail Project, the whole movement is to gather funds to bail out people who are in a tough spot, especially during these riots and all these things that are happening. And people donate money. And obviously they are also receiving support from others. And some people are saying it's George Soros. So who knows? But definitely being funded. It's not cheap. And, you know, I don't want to put her face all over the place, but a glimpse of that, well, there you go. Anyway, that's not my goal here. My goal is just to bring out truth and find out what's going on. And if you ever visit the site, it's kind of interesting. You know, Bail Project National Revolving Bail Fund is a critical tool to prevent incarceration and combat racial and economic disparities, bail system, so on and so forth. So interesting stuff. So this next one here says, who is Amy Coney Barrett, front runner for the Supreme Court nomination? Okay. Well, it says she's married to Jesse Barrett, a former prosecutor, now in private practice, and the couple have 7 children, 1 with Down syndrome and 2 adopted from Haiti. Sound like some good people. You know, they're adopting kids. They're helping kids out. They're from, the kids are from Haiti. I know some people have done that. Down syndrome, one child has. She's been around for a little while. Barrett, like Scalia, is seen as an originalist or a textualist. It's a philosophy that looks strictly at the text and constitution or statute and tries to apply original intention from the framers. I agree with that. I like to sticking to, hey, just keep it black and white. Keep it what it's intended for. I think that's the purpose of law. If we start saying, well, this law kind of applies to you, but maybe it doesn't. And this one, well, they really meant this, but let's just change it to what we like. No, that's not how things work. It's just not good that way. Then we end up with situations like we're in right now where things are kind of flip-flopped, where people are calling something that would typically be considered absolutely wrong, and maybe it's considered okay now. And it says the dogma lives loudly within you, and that's of concern. That's what Feinstein said about her. The dogma, what is she talking about? Her Catholic faith. My concern here is she's essentially just being attacked for her Catholic faith. So ultimately, that's the issue that we have here. It looks like when you look at everything, you read it, ultimately, it looks like she's, number one, being attacked because of her faith. That's just the truth. I mean, that's what they keep on bringing up. Because of her faith, she's likely to vote against abortion. Can't say I disagree with that. Same thing. I mean, of course, I consider myself a Christian, and that being said, I would probably agree with a lot of what she says. Barrett wrote, the Second Amendment did not necessarily ban people from convicted felonies from owning a gun. And so she's actually for arming people who've had felonies. It's very interesting. So in 1791 and for well more than a century afterward, legislatures disqualified categories of people from the right to bear arms only when they judged that doing so was necessary to protect the public safety. So it's interesting to me because the left right now, people on the left are trying to bail people out because of them being arrested and being having bail set and so on and so forth. And here she's arguing for these also previous people who may have had a felony or something from obtaining the right to protect themselves, the Second Amendment. So it's always interesting because many times both sides argue something similar, yet they think they're saying the opposite, and I'm not really sure what's going on there. And so ultimately, again, let's watch this. Not sure where this is going. She probably will move forward, and it's going to be interesting in the next few weeks because of what's going on with Pelosi and all these other people. Let's keep an eye on it. And that's our show. Thank you guys for coming. So many things to cover. Crazy times we live in. Don't forget to stop by. We'll have more for you. And of course, like, subscribe, hit the bell down below, comment, do what you got to do, and we'll see you guys again. Bye.